So as I was preparing for this weekend, look at the readings early in the week, there was one word that jumped out at me. That word was habits. Those things that we have all do automatically, things that we've done so many times that they're second nature to us. We don't have to think about them. They're just kind of the natural thing that we do. And sometimes, as we look at them, habits can be good for us. They can lead us to new levels of success and accomplishment. They can lead us to a healthier life. And it's simply because we do them without thinking about it. You know, it's funny because in the gospel this morning the readings talk about the washing of hands, which, as Father Joe reminded me a little earlier, in 2021, in the world of COVID-19, it's really a good habit to have. But there's other habits, things like exercising. When we get into an exercise routine and we do it every day, it does become a habit for us after a while. I've read it's something on the order of 30 to 60 days of actually doing it every day. And suddenly what happens if we skip a day, we miss it. Or eating healthy food. Changing our diet does take some effort in the world that we live in today because we are surrounded by fast food and prepared food. But if you ever read the nutrition labels, what you pretty quickly discover is those fast foods and those prepared foods probably aren't the best thing for us. But if we take the time and begin to research and put together our own menus, think about what we're eating, that becomes that habit where we start to eat healthier. When we discover that fresh food actually tastes a whole lot better than the frozen stuff, we lose weight. Generally speaking, we feel better. But of course, there are also the habits that we have, those things that we do without thinking about them, that aren't necessarily good for us. Things like grabbing that handful of candy when we walk past the bowl on the countertop. That's a really hard one for me. Or watching television until we fall asleep in front of it. Or getting in the car to drive the quarter mile to the mailbox rather than walking. That list can go on. And I'm confident that everyone understands that there are things that we naturally do that are good for us and some that aren't. And I really do think that's the point of today's message. We need to learn to live by the lessons that we have been given. And we shouldn't ever do those things that we've been taught simply because they're the way things always have been done. Because sometimes the way things have always been done isn't good for us. So for me, the message was this, that I need to think about the lessons that I've been taught and how they apply in the circumstances that I find myself in at each moment, and ensure that I'm applying them the right way. Today's gospel story, we hear Pharisees and scribes questioning Jesus regarding why his disciples don't follow the tradition of the elders. And Jesus responds with, "Well did Isaiah prophesy about you hypocrites. As it is written, this people honors me with their lips." That is to say, they do what they do simply because it's tradition, without giving any thought to it. And he finishes with, "But their hearts are far from me." Saying we really don't take the time to think about if what we are doing is the right thing based upon the situation we find us in. Jesus goes on, though. He says, "Hear me, all of you, and understand." And he tells everyone that nothing that enters from the outside will defile us, but the things that come from within are what defile. And to me, that was really the message of today's gospel. It's about habits and how just doing something because it's what we've always done can lead us to behaviors that are not necessarily reflective of the model that Jesus gave us to live by. Now, I'm sure, and I know for myself, but many of us have found ourselves in situations where change needed to happen. Whether it was change that we were the driving force of, or change that was just impacting us. And I do know that change can be very, very hard to accept. But at the same time, change is often necessary for any number of reasons. And so resisting change, clinging to our old habits and traditions, doesn't always bring us closer to God or strengthen our relationship with Jesus. In my experience, resisting change simply because we'd rather cling to our habits and traditions is what Jesus was talking about when he said, "From within people, from their hearts, come evil thoughts. All these evils come from within, and they defile." And what I think Jesus was telling us is that we shouldn't take out our frustrations. When we feel that change is happening, we shouldn't take out our frustrations on the messenger, the person who's bringing the change to our attention. Because by taking our frustrations out on the messenger, we're allowing evil thoughts, we're allowing arrogance, or any of the other sins that he talked about, to separate us from God, to weaken our relationship with Jesus. And so as I spent some time thinking about this, it occurred to me that when I take the time to sit and reflect on different experiences in my life, or as I plan to go deal with whatever happens next week, those times in our lives when we're faced with changes that surprise us, or changes that mean our old habits and traditions cannot continue, we need to allow our heart to be open to where God is leading us. We need to ask ourselves, will we allow our hearts to be filled with evil thoughts and defile and weaken our relationship with Jesus? Or will we turn to Jesus, draw closer to him, and honor him by living as he taught?